My name is Zach Bates. I'm just a dad of 5 that loves to cook, and I love sharing the recipes that my family loves and hope you guys enjoy them as much as we do. Today we're making a creamy lemon basil chicken. I love this rich Parmesan sauce paired with these softer, light lemon notes and the basil. If you're anything like my family, you're gonna love this, and you're gonna throw it together in about 30 minutes. So the first thing I'm gonna do before I mess with my chicken or anything, we're gonna go ahead and start mixing some eggs and buttermilk. Drop 3 eggs in here. Okay, we did not like the look of that. I'll remember to do that behind the counter. It just looks nasty. Drop 3 eggs in here. And about a 1/4 cup of buttermilk. I'm gonna guess at it because I didn't grab a measuring cup. No good dish goes unsalted. We salt everything. I don't know if science says it needs it or not, but taste bud says it does. I'm gonna whisk this up real good. This is gonna be for our chicken. Now we're doing this chicken a little bit different. This is also a breaded chicken, like our chicken Alfredo was, if you saw that video. But this is just gonna be a 2-station chicken. We're gonna pound it out, go straight in the egg wash. Kind of mix it up so it looks like this right here. But our chicken will go straight in the egg wash and then straight into the dregs and the flour and right into the hot oil. Once again, we're gonna pound our chicken and we're gonna try to make it kind of even thickness. When you got a really thick chicken breast though, pounding that guy down to a 1/2 inch is a little bit much. So we're gonna trim this one in half. The idea is to have them even. And so if we cut it in half, the thick part gets thinner, but the flip side of that is the thin part gets thinner too. So even though we've cut it in half, we're still gonna hit it with the hammer here a few times. Now for me, I don't even close my bags when I do this. Some people do and let all the air out, but I've just found hitting it, it goes a lot better just to leave the bag open, and it keeps it from splattering steel. We're not really trying to beat the chicken. We're just trying to get it to a uniform thickness so that it'll cook evenly in the pan. As soon as it's pounded out, we're gonna go ahead and lay that straight in our, I'm gonna shred some fresh Parmesan. There's nothing to really elevate a dish like using fresh Parmesan. The pre-shredded stuff, for one, you never wanna use that crumbly, stuff with the green lid that you get from the grocery store. But even the pre-shredded stuff just doesn't do the same as shredding some fresh parm. I normally will shred by weight because every shredder is different. So if you'll just get about a 12 ounce or 10 ounce little triangle of it and shred that down, you'll really get a quality flavor for your cheese, and that's about the right amount for this dish. We got a Parmesan shredded. Part of this is going into our breading, and part of this is going to go into the end product. So now we're going to get down to the good part. We're going to start breading our chicken. One thing I really love about this dish is that it's just a 2-station chicken. I love my 3-station breading. If I'm doing a fried chicken or making some wings or something like that, it really gives a great crispy crust. But this is going to be an amazing fried chicken. It's a lot faster just going straight from our egg wash and into our flour. So this is going to use equal parts of flour, I'm using 2/3 of a cup. Italian style panko. The Italian style has a little bit of seasoning to it too. Seasoning never hurt nobody. And then a teaspoon of garlic powder. Teaspoon of black pepper. And no good dish goes unsalted. Teaspoon and about a teaspoon and a half of salt. Mix that up a little bit, and now we're going to add 1/3 of a cup of our Parmesan that we just grated. We're gonna take our chicken. It's been sitting marinating in this. Definitely not long enough to really give that buttermilk brine chance to change anything in the chicken, but it does add some flavor. I've learned that if I dip my chicken out with one hand, use the other hand, or else this hand will be covered in the flour mixture. So keep your dry hand dry and your wet hand wet. And you can see even though it's just a 2-station, it's still well covered. Got plenty of that breading on there. That's gonna be a good thick breading. No issues with just having 2 stations. Growing up, one of my favorite dishes that my mom made was fried chicken. As we got more kids, it turned into pizza because that was a lot faster for mom than hand breading chicken for all of us. But as I started to cook, one of the things that I learned was there's a lot more than just one kind of southern fried chicken. You can really experiment with a lot of different flavorings and seasonings. You can add thyme, add Italian seasoning. My mom always added sugar to the bread, and it kind of like a sweet fried chicken hers was, and it was very crunchy. Had that restaurant style crunchy breading. I love mixing it in with as many dishes as I can, mixing it with the sauces you get, whether it's with chicken Alfredo or with this creamy basil chicken, or I also have a sun-dried tomato chicken we'll probably do one day. That is great. And chicken is a great dish too. Coming from a big family, chicken was one of those things you could buy a big old pack of chicken and feed a lot of people, whereas you couldn't do that with a lot of other meats. And even now with just 5 kids, chicken definitely is one of those dishes that's so easy to cook for a group as far as when it comes to affordability compared to a lot of other stuff out there. Try to go around to make sure there's no wet spots. And you get a beautiful breaded chicken ready to take over and heat up some oil for. Okay, got me a... Get that too. Got me a lemon here. This is what really lightens up this dish, and I think one of our favorite. We get into spring, in the first part of the year, lots of lemony, fruity flavors, and it really makes a difference with basil and Parmesan. So I'm gonna try to cut these, not quite a 1/4 inch, about 1/8 of an inch, a little over 1/8 of an inch, about 3/16. There we go. Trying to learn my own fractions again. Slide these guys, set them aside. I'm try to get about 4 or 5 cloves of garlic here. For me, they're always just easier to peel if I smash them a little bit. Thought I'd just peel that one in, but it wasn't happening. One of my favorite things about cooking is it really takes a lot of focus. So when I started cooking, I was coming from the sheriff's department, working those 12-hour shifts, and a lot of times they ended up a lot longer than 12 hours. And I was just doing it to help out and try to give my wife a break. She'd been home 12 hours with the kids, and I thought, hey, you know, really be a nice thing cooking and free that time up for her, and it's something I enjoy. It's kind of her little break time when Dad got home from work. But I found that without even meaning to, it was taking my mind off of everything, kind of giving me that get your mind off of work, leave work where work is, and afterwards, after family dinner, a lot more enjoyment to the rest of the afternoon, because I'm not sitting there reliving the day, reliving all the things that didn't get done or need to get done. And after I left the sheriff's department, it's got to where I enjoyed cooking so much that I just kept doing it. The hard part about that is when I'm trying to cook and at the same time talk to the camera, it's a lot harder than I thought it would be. Last thing left to cut is a little bit of the basil here. I'm not gonna cut all this. Good food should look good, and a few little things. I'm still learning it at times, but one of the things that really will stand out is a little bit of green on a dish, especially something white like a creamy Parmesan sauce or something like that. So save a few of these smaller basil leaves. These will make a really good little garnish on the dish, and I love to impress my wife, and she loves the little things like that stand out and show you're putting that extra thought in. And if I've got company over, I love to impress them too. And it really just shows that you're going that extra mile to make something special. So I've got some of the smaller ones. I think the big ones just get too big. Sometimes I'll kind of cut them a little bit to make them look a little smaller. But for these, we're just going to crush them really good. And then we're going to slice them up. With this, feel free to add whatever you want. You want to add thyme, you want to add Italian seasoning, or if you just want to use dried herbs, use about half of what you'd use from fresh herbs because dried herbs are a lot stronger. But anything you want, any blends you want to use are going to make this dish your own special touch. So this is all a one pot dish, and the great part about that is we're going to have one thing to clean besides all the kids' plates. Got some fire underneath, and we're going to heat our oil up. I like to cover the bottom when I'm frying chicken, just kind of cover the bottom of the pan. It's not as deep as it looks, but it's still pretty deep. Here we go, it is ready. I dropped a little bit of that powder in there just to see, and you can see it start to bubble instantly. You know that stuff's good and fired up. I'm gonna lay this in careful because we don't have a lot of room in the pot, and we need to fit all this chicken in here. You gotta be careful not to get your oil too hot or you'll just blacken this stuff. We're not gonna cook this through 165 yet because we're gonna put it right back in the sauce when we get it in, but we do want that nice golden brown. So we're gonna watch these edges. I like to use a lot of oil because you can actually get up a little on the edges and you can kind of see what the bottom's looking like. It's just gonna be a little bit darker than these sides are. So I'll be watching. If you can see these sides are kind of white now, when they start turning golden brown, we're gonna be like, okay, time to flip. Starting to get golden brown right on the bottom of that, you can see, so we're gonna go ahead and flip this thing over. You can cut these pieces a lot smaller if you want to, and give you a lot more little pieces of breaded chicken. My mom used to cut a breast into about 8 or 9 pieces. You just kind of cut them more into strips, and it's just as easy. You can probably fit more chicken in the pan that way, and it will stretch a little farther. For me, this will do just plenty for us. So we're going to just pull this chicken out and set it aside. We got our pan. I drained off some of the excess oil. I'm going to throw in some butter. Let that start melting. A little over a tablespoon, not quite 2 tablespoons. Still got some of our good crust from our chicken in there though, and that's really going to add to our flavor. And be careful you keep your heat low enough you don't burn it, because if you do burn it, pull your pan off and clean it before you finish this part, or you'll have burnt taste to everything. We'll rake in our garlic. Let that start bubbling around a minute. Now this is the good part. We're going to add in our spinach. And I'm going to add about 2 to 3 cups of spinach, which is hard to measure because it's just big old things. You can honestly put as much spinach as you want to in these things because it's going to wilt down so small, it's really not going to matter. The more I've cooked, the more adventurous I've gotten. And that doesn't just come with trying new foods or trying new seasonings. Sometimes it's new combinations. And combining the spinach in the pot like this was definitely something new when I tried it, but now I couldn't imagine this any other way. I kind of use the spinach as it's cooking to kind of clean the bottom of the pan and just get up all those good little crunchy pieces. It's not really about having a clean pot, more about getting all that flavor off of it and into your dish. Spinach is definitely wilted down. We're going to start adding our chicken broth. This is not a liquid measuring cup, but it's a lot closer than digging for one. Now we're going to add 1.5 cups of heavy whipping cream. This is the creamy part. I'm going to turn the heat up just to bring this to a boil, and then we're going to turn it right back down to low medium, and then take it all the way down to a slow simmer before we add our cheese in. I'm using gas so the flame kind of comes up around the side. I kind of stir the edges just to keep the side from curdling. As we say, no good dish goes unsalted. Set my salt a little coarser for this. That fresh cracked black pepper really adds something. We'll let this simmer. When it comes up to a simmer here, kind of see little bubbles in there. Let it go for about 4 minutes and we'll see if it's thicker. We can add a couple more minutes if we need that. I really owe my wife a special thank you. She takes the kids whenever I'm doing this, so it's quiet. That's why you hear kids screaming all throughout the audio. She takes the kids, and instead of me coming and cooking and relieving her for the day and it being her moment of rest, I come home from work to to do a cooking episode, and she takes all the kids for another 2 or 3 hours while we set it all up and break it all down. And a special thank you to her for all the hard work she's done to make this possible for me. Between this and my real estate, it's been a huge... The person you have in your life as your wife or as your husband or whoever that spouse is, they make the biggest impact on how much you enjoy the rest of your life. So it doesn't have the Parmesan cheese yet, but I can tell it needs a little bit of salt. But because Parmesan cheese is so salty, I'm going to add my cheese first. I'm going to add my cheese first and then decide whether or not I still want more salt. The thing is, I don't want it too hot, so I'm going to turn my heat all the way off pretty much. I can always turn it back on. But to keep sauces from separating, you really want to add your cheeses at low heat, especially cheeses that are a little bit more difficult to melt, like a Parmesan. I'm going to do about 1.5 cups. I grated a little extra. We're not making this near as thick as we would make an Alfredo. This is truly a lot more of a sauce thing. See, it's perfectly salty enough now. That Parmesan brought it right up. I'm going to turn my heat back on. And I'm going to drop my chicken back in. Now remember, we didn't test the temperature of this chicken when we brought it off of the stove, because it's going to actually get its rise in here. Add our aromatics. Here's our basil. I'm going to sprinkle this in. This is where your house is truly going to smell amazing. If people step into your house after you've cooked this, they better be coming for dinner, because they are not going to forgive you if they smell this and you didn't offer them something to eat. Put this lemon on here. We got the heat as low as it can go, almost like you're cooking it in a crock pot. I'm pretty sure if you're a crock pot cooker that you could cook this in a crock pot. You could just dump the sauce down in your crock pot and let it simmer on low, and you'd be just fine. But we're going to do it right here on the stove top. Close the lid. We're going to set this thing for about 5 more minutes and check the temperature. And if the chicken's 165, we're ready to eat. If you could be in our house right now and just smell the smell coming off of this, the basil and lemon all mixed together, you try this dish, if for nothing else, just to see what your house smells like when you cook it. It's amazing. Oh, just so juicy, and get some of this Parmesan sauce and this spinach. The spinach is really what sets this dish apart. So lay it over there. I'm going to put my 2 little basil leaves in here. Have them saved in. I'll just go right on top of my lemon. And sprinkle some parm over the spinach there. 30 minutes and we have made an amazing dish. It smells amazing. The house smells amazing. And this is going to taste amazing. Can't wait to try it. Oh, that chicken is just so tender, it cuts right through. Even with just 2 stations, that bread stayed on. A little of that parm sauce on there. I feel bad eating this before I serve it to the family, but this is truly a dish that will impress anybody that ever tries it. And there you go. There's a reason this is a family staple. My kids love this dish. They love when I'm cooking it, and I love to cook it. I hope you guys love it as much as we do. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day.